And I think we deserve to have those actual policy debates rather than what the race otherwise devolves into, is these personal attacks. You hear effectively one of the candidates calling 70+ million Americans weird. You want to know what I think is weird? I think abolishing air travel is weird. I think abolishing the coal industry is weird. I think abolishing private health insurance is weird, not as a personal attack, but because they adversely impact the economic interests of Americans. That's what we should be talking about.
What's going on, guys? We got to talk about some of these smug leftists out here on Woke Behind CNN covering the DNC convention day 4, and they decided to, for whatever reason, invite Vivek Ramaswamy on to chat with them. Okay, now this historically has never gone well. Vivek literally cooks everybody that he has any type of debate style conversation with. And you know that these smug folks on CNN just love to try to go back and forth, especially with conservative guests, but they always get destroyed. I don't know what the hell these people are thinking, but I know one thing, it's great for content and I love reacting to it. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Saw this in Politico. You did a 45-minute phone conversation, and some of the discussions you had with them were just like what you said here, and it does relate to what we've heard, I think, at the Democratic National Convention so far, where many of the speakers have said, and I'm sure you disagree with them on policy, but it sounds like they're saying what you're saying, which is that you have to listen to what people are saying. And you feel like maybe you came in a little hot when you were running in the Republican primary.
Look, I take a look at the presidential campaign. I often judge as a business leader I've been by results. The reality is I came in with no name ID. Most people didn't know my name, let alone know how to pronounce it. I wasn't even expected to make the debate stage. I beat a vice president, multiple former U.S. senators and current senators and governors. So I'm proud of what we achieved. But at the same time, I didn't achieve my goal of receiving the nomination and being the next president. And one of my learnings from that campaign was that there's a lot of distractions along the way. There's a lot of things that'll pull you off of your original purpose. Don't cede to that temptation. So as it relates to the race right now, which you bring up in the Democratic convention, I think one of the things that's missing in this race right now is a rigorous debate on policy. You do get a lot of Democratic criticism of Republicans and of Trump in particular, including even that clip of Bill Clinton that you played, that it's built around a cult of personality. I see a little bit of projection right now, and right now we see a campaign that's built mostly around style rather than substance. And I do think Americans are going to be best served if this is an election built around competing policy visions for the future of the country. And I do think right now that's missing, if we're being very honest, from the Kamala Harris campaign and the Democratic campaigns more generally.
And not from the Trump campaign? Cult of personality? Really?
Well, look, that's why I bring it up. Like it or not, Trump has offered deep policy specifics, from everything from a vision for a crypto.
You see how this lady is trying to imply that the only reason anybody cares about Trump is because of his personality? Like, no, that's just a cherry on top. But it's really because we want closed borders and we want a great economy. It really boils down to that. Like, you know, you got other things, obviously, that all those things lead to. Like, if you have a prosperous economy, you have a great law enforcement, you have safety, you have great education, right? All of those things come along with one thing that you need: money. And you know what you don't have a lot of is money. When you got a bunch of illegal migrants coming in, you don't have a whole lot of safety. They got woke everything. The freaking military is falling apart. The America right now is, for lack of a better term, a disaster.
Well, look, that's why I bring it up. Like it or not, Trump has offered deep policy specifics, from everything from a vision for a cryptocurrency and digital assets framework all the way to his specific proposals of what tariffs he would or wouldn't impose, a clear position on how to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict, a clear position on mass deportations in this country, and exactly what he would do to seal that southern border. You may or may not agree with the policies, but he has offered policy specifics at a level that we have not heard from Kamala Harris. And I do say this, I think it's accurate to say this. I think right now, so far in her campaign, it's early, but I think the media has been covering for her absence of policy specifics in the same way they were covering for Biden's cognitive deficits for the course of 3 years. And I do think Americans are left off worse as voters when we don't get those hard answers. So my advice to voters across the country would be, assume that her positions are what they were when she ran for U.S. president in 2020. That wasn't a long time ago. And if so, we ought to be having a debate about abolishing private health insurance, about taxes on unrealized capital gains, about the Green New Deal. That's the debate we need to be having, but we're not.
She's not going to have that debate, Vivek. she doesn't want to debate. Even one time, she didn't even want to do the September 10th debate. She was trying to hope that Donald Trump would stubbornly not accept the switcheroo because Joe Biden was supposed to debate Trump on September 10th.
So many of you have been asking me about the debate, and I'll tell you, I'm ready to debate Donald Trump. I have agreed to the previously agreed upon September 10th debate. He agreed to that previously. Now it appears he's backpedaling.
A few moments later.
Well, Kamala, let's go. Challenge accepted. Are you ready? Let's compare our record point by point.
Madam Vice President, Donald Trump agreed to three debates. Will you be participating in all three?
I've always been on record. I am looking forward to debating Donald Trump, and we have a date of September 10th. I hear he is finally committed to it. I'm looking forward.
What about the other two?
Let's make sure we get this.
And Kamala just steps in like, we agreed to 2 debates. We agreed to do that debate on September 10th. Donald Trump never agreed to that. She tried to stick to that. Like, she wanted to stand on business with something that they never even agreed to for whatever dumbass reason, maybe thinking Trump would stubbornly say, well, no, we didn't agree to that, so I'm not going to do it, and then try to say he's afraid. Kamala Harris has played this campaign very idiotically and stupidly and foolishly because that's what the Democrats, that's just how they are these days. It's just liars, gaslighters, foolish, dumb, using lawfare. Shout out to Trump and RFK Jr. Trump's out here offering 3 different debates. Fox News, I believe he said NBC, and then of course ABC being the only one that they're actually doing as of yet that we know about. Kamala Harris officially came out and said she's not doing no more debates. She said you got one chance to tank her campaign. And one chance is all you need. Shout out to your boy, Joe Biden. How's he doing?
Politico article and conversation you had with them, you basically said you've been telling Trump he's got to do a better job of staying on message on policy because, look, over the last 4 weeks and 5 days since the nominee became Vice President Harris, he's questioned whether she's black. He's made fun of her name repeatedly. He questions her intelligence constantly.
Did y'all see the DNC convention? Where they were trying to say, they said Donald Trump was convicted of rape, which he wasn't. They had previously called Donald Trump Hitler numerous times. They called him a bully. They said he only cares about himself. They called him a fool. They said he was foolish. They said all kinds of stuff. They talk about Donald Trump constantly, and yet, for whatever reason, they want Trump to trim down on the personal attacks.
Did you see Barack Hussein Obama last night? Take little shots. He was taking shots at your president. And so was Michelle. You know, they always say, sure, please stick to policy, don't get personal. And yet they're getting personal all night long, these people. Do I still have to stick to policy?
Even Vivek, I disagree with here in regard to policy, because Donald Trump always talks about policy, but one of his claims to fame and one of the reasons why he won is all those stupid nicknames and all that stuff that he always does. It works. That's why the Democrats stole it with that whole weird thing.
I'm very angry at her that she'd weaponized the justice system against me and other people. Very angry at her. I think I'm entitled to personal attacks. I don't have a lot of respect for her. I don't have a lot of respect for her intelligence. And I think she'll be a terrible president. And I think it's very important that we win. And whether the personal attacks are good, bad, I mean, she certainly attacks me personally. She actually called me weird. He's weird. It was just a soundbite. And she called J.D. and I weird. He's not weird. He was a great student at Yale. He went to Ohio State, graduated in 2 years, at the top of his class, and all of these different things. And we have this guy that's running a very failed state, who's had a terrible career. I mean, you have him saying they're weird. No, he's a weird guy. And she's weird in her policy. Who wouldn't want to have strong borders? Who doesn't want to have lower taxes?
I'm pretty sure Vivek is about to talk about that right now.
Not the message you seem to be suggesting is the right one for him.
I think there's a gaping, wide open opportunity to go harder after Kamala Harris on her policy record. I think the reality is most people do like their private health insurance who have it. She has favored taking it away. Most people do like fracking and drilling and the effects on energy prices that has. She's opposed fracking. She's opposed to even offshore drilling. These are issues we should be hitting hard on. Take that tax on unrealized capital gains. That means most farmers and most small business owners will have to pay taxes with cash they literally do not have. That is a formula for a Great Depression. So my assessment is we have not been going hard enough at her for that policy record. You look at the other side, their strategy has been to call about 70 plus million Americans
but stay away from the personal stuff. Are you saying stay away from the personal stuff?
Attacks.
I think it's a winning strategy for us, especially against the backdrop of Democrats who have made this quite personal.
Not the personal stuff, though. Not the personal stuff, though, right?
Because I think that's a contrast from Democrats. You think about the Democratic convention, chance of lock him up, chance of weird, effectively calling 70 plus million Americans on the other side weird. As they're leveling,
but they're not
those
calling the Americans
insults,
that. But they wait. I just
Look, you see how what is it with y'all always defending that these people are in something? Y'all supposed to be news anchors. You're supposed to be interviewing him, not debating him. They're trying to defend everything the Democrats do and criticize everything that Trump does. It never fails.
They're not calling Americans weird. They're not calling the electorate weird.
They're just weird was the broad. They're weird was the broad phrase they've used. But my point is, this is a contrast
they're specifically talking about the vice president, the Republican vice presidential nominee, and Donald Trump, not the electorate.
You dumb.
Well, I think that I beg to differ on that characterization. You look at the way that many Republicans, even down ballot Republicans, are treated in these races. My goal is not to play the victim card. My goal is actually to highlight an opportunity that Republicans have to say that at a moment where they're leveling personal insults at you, you know what? You have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to attack even harder on the policy record. And I think our country is going to be better off if we have those policy debates. We still have 2 months ahead. I'm optimistic that's where this is going to go after the pageantry of a well-produced Democratic convention, after John Legend and Oprah Winfrey are done. Now we can get past the show to the real action of a policy debate that Americans want.
First off, this lady got a lot of freaking audacity to try to say, well, they weren't talking about the electorate. They're just talking about J.D. Vance and Trump. Obviously, if J.D. Vance and Trump and Vance are who we picked, then by virtue of calling them weird, if they represent the values that we support, you're calling us weird too, dipshit. And as for what Vivek is saying, this is where I agree, but I disagree. I agree that Kamala Harris can obviously be strongly attacked on her policy positions. Like, who the hell wants to get taxed on unrealized gains? I got stocks in the stock market that have just been there just for like forever. You're telling me that I would have to pay some of that money? I'm just waiting to see if it just goes up. Some of it's just kind of going back and forth. It's not really doing anything. I'm waiting to see if anything goes sky high. You're telling me I got to pay just because it's sitting there? That literally would just bankrupt half the people in the country. I'm surprised a lot of, you know what, maybe that's why a lot of her poll numbers went down, but a lot of these dumbasses that are these big billionaires decided to donate to her anyway. Y'all fools are going to lose a ton of money on Kamala Harris. So though I do agree with Vivek that you can attack her harder on policy, I agree with him putting it that way. But what I disagree with is Vivek implying, he didn't explicitly state this time, he said it before, but this time he's just kind of implied that, well, you don't want to go too hard with the stupid nicknames and name calling and stuff and so forth. But the thing is, again, guys, Donald Trump speaks all the time. If people just haven't heard him or whatever, they're just ignoring him at this point. So as far as those independent voters, I really feel like it's not going to be about what Donald Trump says at this point. They don't care what Donald Trump says. They already know his policy position. He wants a closed border. He did better on the economy. Every independent voter knows those two things, okay? Unless they're just extremely misinformed or stupid or something, they know that. But what they don't know is that Kamala Harris is a dummy, okay?
Since becoming a presidential candidate, she has refused to do a single interview. You know why? Because she's dumb. Or hold a single press conference. She won't hold a press conference. She won't do it. She won't do it. She doesn't want, and they're easy questions, you know, because the press, look at them back there. Look at all of them. A lot of press.
Like when he calls her dumb, it's because she is. That whole, oh, you're going to lose women. A lot of women ain't going to like Trump because they still focus on grabbing by the pee. They never going to let that go. It don't matter if Joe Biden out here sniffing little girls and feeling on their shoulders, fondling them, putting his nose all up in their ear and their hair and all. They don't care.
What is not widely spoken about is Joe Biden's creepiness.
They don't like Trump. It's that simple. So to try to say like, oh, you need to focus exclusively on policy, let this man cook. He knows what he's doing, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
Should I get personal? Should I not get personal? I don't know. My advisors are fired.